I think even in a prior session, somebody pointed out that because there was some kind of performance poetry, and it was pointed out that, hey, this is not poetry. There's not enough lines I remember from your performance. And that was told to the performer as a, and I felt, and then there was Jeet's session where somebody was trying to say that how are we going to define poetry, and I think I stick to even what Jeet said about it, like because one of the latest fourth collection of my books begins with that line by Morse Peckham, who is a performance artist. Art is not a category of perceptual fields, but of role playing. So I think the onus lies on you. How much are you willing to role play with me in my poem? And if you leave the responsibility to me, I might sink the boat because I'm here for myself and not for you. And that's how selfish an artist is, right? In many ways. And so I think there is a discourse to be had because again, there are many schools of thought, art for art's sake, and the idea of does artist have a responsibility, and like Yeats' quote, which goes like, poets are in some ways like they are a maker of policy makers in some sense, right? So let me probably define or undefine how even I look at poetry, and then we'll get from there. So this poem is called Dibang Dam Project, and it is just a picture, and it is just a visual poem. And you can just see a gray page here. And in the gray page, it says Dibang Dam Project. So there's Dibang Valley is a place in Arunachal, and there have been discussions around having dam there. And there are beautiful ecosystems, which are endangered, right? And so there was just a few words there that what I did with the poem is very inspired by Robert Rauschenberg, an artist I follow. So Robert is a performance artist of sorts, and he said that an artist's work is to record his time in history. And so I just said, what am I doing? And this poem is just a black image gray page which says, the beautiful habitat of Dibang Valley, home to tigers, mishmi takins, leopards, bears, squirrels, and musk deers, have been carefully erased and submerged like this poem. So I wrote a poem on Dibang Valley, and I erased it. I wrote it with a pencil on a plain page, erased it for a while, and then drowned it in water, and then took a picture of it and put it up there. And now the question is if that is a poem, because yeah, it does not. It is not, it is, I don't know. It is for time to say if it's a good poem or a bad poem, right? So that's how I define poetry, because it's very, very, for me it's very, it's undefinable in many ways, right? So that is what I did. And many of my poems are, so I remember, I'm having more of conversations because it feels like a small group of people who I'm talking to. So it was COVID times and online readings were much in thing. And how do you even bring in resistance to your poetry is up to you, right? It's your responsibility. So, it was some kind of festival, I don't want to name it, some online festival going on. Madhu, why don't you read more poems? And I'm like, no, I'm tired. And I'm based in Guwahati, Assam. I'm a Tanjore Maharashtrian, born and brought up in Calcutta, married to a beautiful woman from the Galo tribe of Arunachal, and living in Guwahati. So they are saying, Madhu, why don't you read more poems? And that time there was a Bagjan fire going on in Assam. An oil plant had broken into fire for a while, and it was 15 days, none of the media channels were covering it. So I decided I'm here tired of reading poetry, and to a screen, especially in the COVID times, you're just glued to the screen talking to people who have switched off their cameras. It's like being in an AI bot movie. And so I'm like, okay, here, I'll read the poem. And I just went like this for a while. So, and they were like, Madhu, we can't hear you, we can't hear you. I think you're on mute or something like that. And for a while this went on and they were like, okay, we'll cut you off and we'll make you rejoin. And I'm like, no, no, no. I was reading the poem. You couldn't hear me because I was reading it from the Northeast. So that's how, I mean, the idea of how you want to perform, how you want to make resistance, what is resistance, what is poetry? So that debate is, I mean, you can see it right here when you go through sessions, right? So there's another poem called OTP, which I would like to read to you, which I read to Uwana, who is here, and she had a beautiful poem to respond to with that. OTP, everybody knows OTP. It is one-time password, right? Everybody gets OTP. Is there anybody in the room who has never got an OTP? From Ola, Uber to everybody sends you an OTP for everything. So the poem is called OTP. They send me an OTP for everything. Every time I log in to my bank or order hypoallergenic baby diapers or assorted color of briefs. I don't remember getting an OTP for war. I did not authorize this purchase. And then let me go to a poem which is very accessible. And like Billy Collins says, he says he has a line. Billy Collins has been a poet laureate of the US, one of my poets I've adored. And he would say something like, my poems are undermined by the word accessible. And for me, writing very accessible poem is resistance also, because we come from a land of oral histories. Our fishermen had songs, our farmers have songs, we have songs, Indians have had songs for the longest time in history, right? Like many other cultured countries. So I believe that saying that, there's a beautiful essay by Dana Joya, which is Who Killed Poetry, and it points to American universities. And because poetry is not supposed to be in universities, poetry is supposed to be with the people, among the people, by the people, exactly like our constitution, right? So this poem is called Going Home. If I'm told to go big or go home, I'll choose home. If I'm told to go big or go home, I'll choose home. Is there an end to how big you can go? Why do they make it sound like going home is losing? If you have found a home, you have won. If you have found a home, you have already won. That's the poem. There's another poem which, kindness. We speak a lot about kindness. Kindness. A butterfly flies into my room. Okay, before I read a few poems for another 10-15 minutes, Hale and Jose and my fellow poet Jose Varghese and Uwana might respond to. I said that let's have a Jugalbandi kind of thing. And when I read, if you have poems you want to echo back or read something, so yeah, you might as well do that if you feel like responding to some of it. So this poem is titled Kindness. A butterfly flies into my room. I switch off the fan. I feel at some point it may fly through the rotating fan blades and hurt itself. It may not, but if it does, I cannot save it then. There have been times when I have been a butterfly trapped in the concrete homes of others, and some stranger has made sure I don't get my wings torn. I remember and make sure to do the same. Then there is, what else can I read you? Let's see. Hey, I'm sure, a lot of people might connect to the Dada movement. Dada movement is one of my favorites, and I love surreal movements. So here is a poem, dosa poem, exactly like a dosa. Apollinaire wrote a lot of shape poems, and he was a French poet, Apollinaire, and he wrote a lot of shape poems. So the poem is called Galaxy Dosa, and it's in the shape of a dosa. That's so it's called Galaxy Dosa. From an aerial view, the white batter spreads like the Milky Way on the dark matter tawa. I run my hand in spiral, making orbits after orbits. Pores appear like planets. My bare eyes cannot see, but I assume I can see the earth right there. I am God. I am allowed to cook my own stories. I sprinkle oily stars in the night sky, turn the sun flames high, give it a nice crispy roast, causing global warming. I move the galaxy on a plate and tuck into the misadventures that come with it with some blissful coconut chutney. Yeah, that's about the poem. So, what else? Let me see. Oh, there's a poem called Artist, and I would like to share with you that there's something I believe which is called the aura of the art. You know, I mean, a point, a cross-sectional point in history when the artist creates the art, and probably, I mean, one in a million chance the world needs it as well. You know, this happens very rarely, but it does happen. And so this poem was written in June or 2020 during the COVID, when artist funds were being cut across the globe. So across UK, US, India doesn't have artist funds. That's a joy. So there's no cut of artist funds in India. But, so a lot of across the world, art funds were being cut and everything. So this poem, I would rather say it went phenomenally across the world. I don't know, Singapore to US to UK, people started composing this poem. Some people in Canada painted it on their walls. And in the UK, people started tagging Rishi Sunak, who was then the finance chancellor, ex-chancellor of finances, cutting funds. And he said artists should find other professions. And the context, and it was quoted in the South African Parliament budget speech by the minister, saying that we shouldn't cut artists' funds. And here I am presenting you to the poem, which you, when you read, you will think, or listen, you will think, oh, this was the poem. Because that's what the aura of art is. You never know what will just make a slash across the time and space in history. The poem goes something like this. Artist. I don't mind being the non-essential. I don't mind being the non-essential. Even a child takes its mother for granted. It does not run back to its mother until it is hurt. Nobody first thinks of water when they arrive at an exquisite dinner party until they are choking. I don't mind being the non-essential, knowing you will come looking when things are broken and nothing else works. Art is non-essential. Art is non-essential until it is not. So, yeah, that's the poem. So, yeah, I mean, for people who are writing, you just should keep writing because you never know when the world needs your poem the most. And if you never wrote it, the world might never have it. So, yeah. So what other lines are? This is a kind of a surreal short poem, lines, again influenced during the COVID times. The building sits over my chest like some abstract mixed media on paper. It's been days the watercolor is yet to dry. It would have, but who will tell the watchman not to cry? It's been days the watercolor is yet to dry. It would have, but who will tell the watchman not to cry? The men bigger than their apartments, their bellies bigger than their kitchen, their phone bigger than their heads, their eyes red droopy flowers without nectar, their bodies hang from too many updating apps installed in them. Their maids, drivers, delivery boys huddle up in a colorfully titled parking space where virucides are sprayed. You can see none of this in the artwork though, some black and white lines on red and a broken sternum. So that's about it. Exactly. So I love visual poems a lot. And when somebody was pointing at Adrian and Luna and saying, how is this poetry? We can't even get a line from what you said. I'm like, so for me, of course, I'm a big fan of a lot of Dada people, Andy Warhol. And for me, pop art is something that's fun. So I'm sure that guy would never read my poems, and I'm very happy he would. Because for me, defining poetry is the biggest problematic thing on the face of earth. This poem is called COVID Helpline. Hey, Apu is here. Hey, COVID Helpline, okay? So this is not a poem for some, but it doesn't matter. I'm not writing it for everyone. So it just says, please stay online, your call is important to us. And then it says, please stay online, your call is important to us. And the heartbeats are still there. And then it says, please stay online, your call is important to us. Please stay online, your call is important to us. And the ECG goes flat by then. So much for COVID helplines, yeah. Where was I? Why does art go hungry? That's a poem. And this was, it was beautifully performed at Department of Dramatics at the University of Iowa when we were there. But I can't be so animated, but I'll read it in a boring, dull voice. I'll go for 10 more minutes. I hate my own voice for a long time. So then I would like even Hale and Joe's and whoever wants to respond to some of these poems is happy to. You can please come and read, you as well. So I forgot your name, sorry. Why does art go hungry? In the story of the ants and the grasshopper, we tell our children to learn from the ants. In the story of the ants and the grasshopper, we tell our children to learn from the ants, to fall in line, to follow, to pick a useful trade. We want them not to be like the grasshopper who sings and plays the fiddle all summer. We teach them gathering wealth is hard work and making music is not. And then we wonder, why does art die of hunger? I don't know. Let me read something called Our Imagined Freedom. Our imagined freedom comes from not doing enough against those who inflict injustice. Those who have a voice are in jails. Clearly, I don't have a voice. Those who protest go missing. As long as we are here to stop when it's red and go when it's green, I'm sure we'll be fine. Summer of '69 is a Marxist song, only if you can see it that way. The sun sets on the glass of my office pane. The zoo giraffe's black tongue knocks the cage lock. My leisure is worth more than what they will ever pay for my labor. Thinking of colors. Thinking of colors. A Pomeranian's head stuck out of a speeding car window, white. The misprints on the election manifesto, black. A cab driver opens the moving car door and stoops and spits on democracy, red. The lines more real than equator, the farmer's palm reads brown. A pen crushed under the government's soul leaks blue. The long pipes in the sky from oil refineries fumes yellow. The dead airspace these days does not grow green. So this poem is called Gala, and it's written for my mother-in-law, who's called Poga Karso. And the wrap women wear around Northeast, just like a wrap. It's weaved mostly at home. So this gala would be mostly it could be called anything in across tribes and different tribes. But gala would be in the Galo tribe. It would be called a gala, where they wrap it mostly like a mundu, but it's much more prettier in different ways. Yeah. So it's a you should look it up, gala. Or you can see all, because it's across Northeast, you know the rap, but here it's called gala. It's for my mother-in-law, for Poga Karso. The wrap and weft of stories knit life and lore tightly. Automated looms loom, the dust on our hands draws, debt and dullness takes over. The assembly lines kill culture. Societies now come in same clothes. She meditates like a mountain, one end of the loom tied to the window. An antelope of light leaps, looking for a companion, the other end tied to her spine. Her nerves run through the universe, there are no permanent fixtures. The voice of a fabric is untamed. Her dyes don't bleed. DYE dyes. Her dyes don't bleed. She bleeds love for daughters, brocades of rain, fashion, decorative dashes, peacock plumes, and lakes of lilacs that drown man and his machine. Her colors are infinite. Her needles, converse, and codes migrate centuries before she brings them home. Her motifs are faceless revolutions. No pamphlets are served, no slogans raised, yet her women blossom at the dance of a tribe like wild orchids. She owns no war, stitches boundaries, and harvests the sun on her loom. Yet none of her children weave the gala. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not a favorite poem of my partner because she's like, you're complaining against us that we don't weave. I'm like, so somebody should start weaving. But the nuance of this is, if you care to look at it, yet none of her children, not yet none of her daughters. So I don't care who weaves, but we need to weave. So that's a very poignant kind of space for me where I write, yet none of her children weave a gala. Yeah. So, guys, do you want to respond? So let me kind of close for now with this poem called Losing a Tongue, because we have been speaking of languages. So most of the Tani clan languages in Arunachal, they are just being, dictionaries are coming out, they are being documented, and the Roman script is being used. And this poem goes out to D.N. Devi and Lisa Lomdak, who have worked in conserving the language, the Galo language. And Tani is the bigger clan, and Galo is one of the languages in it. Naharlagun is a place in Arunachal. So if you ever take a train to Arunachal from Guwahati, you will land in Naharlagun. So Mithun is an animal. It's the Indian gaur. It looks like a bit like the bison, but it's the Indian gaur. It's called Mithun, which is not the actor. So yeah, and Kaba is village councils. So losing a tongue. A mother never dies, neither does a language. Words turn to birds, rest in herds of clouds, come down on forests, stay like a leaf that holds the last drop of rain. Tani will survive, grow like wild ferns in crevices of barren walls between the loss of words. The train that leave Naharlagun will come back to these hills that are hospices. The Arunachali Hindi will help trade. Tired tongues will look for words of love, like the Mithun looks for salt. Brothers will then come to teach their children Tani, look for lost lullabies, search for stolen sagas in castaway caskets, create art from old and new words, embrace common sounds. The skies, hills, forests, and rivers will hold a Kaaba. The free skies will shine, the free hills will speak, the free rivers will sing, and the free forests will write in Tani. Yeah, that's about it. So Arunachal is also, I think, one of the least populated states in India, and that's the best part about I like about Arunachal. If I'm not wrong, there are just 15, 16 lakh people, and indigenous people around 12 lakhs. And it is, if you think of Northeast, that is the biggest state in sense of geography, and it's beautiful. Come to Arunachal once. Not paid by the Arunachal tourism, but do come. Yeah. But yeah, if anybody wants to respond, Joanna, Hale, Jose, did you pick a few poems, Jose, to read? Come.
Thank you, Madhu. I'm so happy to sit with him here again because in the last Mathrubhumi festival, I moderated a session in which he read his poems. So thinking of Madhu's approach to language, I was tempted to read this poem by me. It's about the process of finding your language. So for me, it was also about getting rid of the language of patriarchy. So this poem is titled, All the Men. All the men who were to be my father figures are dead. I witnessed their burials in the lands they thought they owned. They were the last to know of funerals that earn real tears. What they passed on isn't worth a fraction of me. I'm thankful, though, for the double-edged sword of language, the passport of imagination to non-existent homelands, the peepholes through which they let me see slices of betrayingly beautiful webs, layers upon layers of power, so well woven in blinding colors and laced with baits that their praise won't even have the time to question the ways in which they were harmed. All the women, a few men, and everyone in between who weren't allowed to stand on podiums and speak through 50 microphones, publish pages of ghost-written rhetoric, present doctored data as bona fide research, fill the mindless with top-class venom, hijack TV time with hateful sound bites, or to have the power to raise anyone were the ones who ended up teaching me how to read poems from those eyes that are capable of suffering and shame. And though all of them couldn't be contained even in 100 poems this length, they aren't going to be buried until their last gift of rebellion is dried up in me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for connecting with the last language poem and going ahead. Hale, do you want to read something? Yeah, come. Yes.
Hi everyone, I'm Hale. That was a really beautiful session. Madhu recited this beautiful poem from his book Stick No Bills about your mother-in-law. There's a word that you did mention, poka.
Local beer is Poka is the local beer.
Poka.
Yeah, Poka. Yeah.
Poka. Okay. So that beautiful poem was from his book Stick No Bills. What pretty much happened here was that he didn't stick bills, but he definitely stuck some verses of poetry. And thank you for doing that. But more so, thank you for inviting me to share the space with you, with all of you. So I write a little bit about love, longing, loss, gaining from the loss. So I guess what the one poem that I intend to recite right now maybe will be going along those lines. And I don't know if this is inappropriate. Is it okay if I sit comfortably? Since it's an intimate, gathering of all of us. Uh, this poem, like a lot of poems that I never end up with titles of, this one does not have a title as well. I sip your searing, caffeinated vakugal. I sip your searing, caffeinated vakugal, tumbling out of your mouth, building, brick by brick, an old age home of grief in the nasty suited canal of my throat, all in a second. The translation of throat-cradled linguistics into salty rain from the hollowness of the eyelids, all in a second. I sip you still from the lower berth of the train, accompanied by none but relentless thirst. Even a cadaverous mind would shiver at the metamorphosis of a birth into a birthplace. Even a cadaverous mind would shiver at the metamorphosis of a birth into a birthplace. The metamorphosis of your words into my tears. The metamorphosis of our brain dance into our love. Shukran, thank you.
Thank you so much, Hala. Leston or so this is just so impromptu, like, because to be very fair, I'm not a great fan of my own voice, so I only read for like 20-25 minutes. Sabin was supposed to be here, but I'm happy that we have a beautiful line of poets now with me, reading with me. Thank you.
Madhu, thank you for your wonderful reading, and thanks for inviting me up. I took hold of that image of you having the entire building on your chest. And I thought I'd read a poem from this book, available from the Festival Bookshop. And I read in Welsh first, and I'll do the translation after. And this is the title poem of this book, Unspecified Spaces, Stafelloedd Amhenodol in Welsh. Yr hyn sy'n aros o hyd yw'r aros. Y bobl na chofiaf I wynebau dim ond I tymer a'i hystym, I haflonyddu a'i llonyddu drachefn, I siffrwd a'i man siarad, I beiros gwag a'i embaras. Pobl fel chdi a fi, yn hannar byw mewn gofodau di-duedd o olau a'r dyddiau ni gwelwi, pobl sy'n disgwyl am I rywun alw I henwau, heb wylio'r waliau rhag I gweld yn dynesu, heb wylio'r waliau rhag ofn nad ydyn tyno, rhag i'r muriau cadarn droi'n llenni o'n cwmpas, rhag i'r gwynt ddod ar garlam I rwygo'r ffabrig gan gadael yn noeth mewn anadliad lle bu stafell, lle bu syniad am neuadd o gorneli perffaith I gael trefn ar ein sypiau esgyrn ac eistedd I aros. What always remains for me is the waiting itself, the people whose faces I never remember, only their temper and poise, their fidgeting and settling, their shufflings and mutterings, their empty biros and embarrassment. People like you and I, half living their lives in impartially lighted spaces, getting paler with each day. People waiting for someone to call their names, not watching the walls lest they should come closer, not watching the walls lest they should not be there, lest the stones should become curtains around us, lest the wind should gallop through, ripping the fabric, leaving us naked in a breath that was once a room, where once was an idea for a hall of perfect corners to arrange our bundles of bones and sit to wait. Diolch yn fawr.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for sharing the stage. I wanted to do a poem in response to your poem Non-Essential, and just thinking about the precarity of capitalism and how many of us live hand to mouth. And so this is called Pay the Rent, and it's in Spanglish, which I like to say is my mother tongue because that's what we spoke at home. We were constantly mixing Spanish and English and falling in between the languages. So, pay the rent. Paga la renta. Now I've forgotten it. Paga la renta. Find your own voice. Find your own place. Tu place propio de ti. Where you shall be rey. Where you shall not stand yourself. Y necesitarás cafés and shops. Salir y chiflarte, to cheer yourself up. ¿Y qué otra cosa podrías hacer? And what else could you do? How to afford this kind of luxury than to slave away? Pero hey, esto ya lo sabíamos de antemano. Y así, con los bolsillos repletos de cachivaches. And thus, with our pockets full of knickknacks, for we are most artfully caged. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Ioana. Thank you for that beautiful Jugalbandi. I taught them the word Jugalbandi, but I said that it's also like, it's mostly kept to music, like somebody plays, it's like a jazz in a classical way, but this is fun as well. You respond to each other's words. And so from there, let me read a few more poems, and then we'll see if somebody wants to end it, and then we'll. So this poem, Capitalism, from the idea of capitalism, this poem is titled A Song for the Farmers. And so this was written when I was with the farmers for almost a month at Jantar Mantar in 2017. So for the Tamil farmers who protested for 41 days at Jantar Mantar in the scorching summer of 2017. Dry fields are inflammable on the charred road, asphalt and tar. Behind the barricade at Jantar Mantar, farmers wither like crops in drought. People come, take pictures with them and leave. No Hindi, only Tamil. People come, take pictures of them and leave. No English, little English. People pretend autos, buses, vehicles pass by. Baba, politicians, activists, poets come and go. Government, corporate, road tars have no moral. Although I have seen tar melt in Delhi's April heat. 60-year-old Nachama, half naked, half dead, cries, "There are no tears. If death is what lies ahead, then I would rather die protesting." The black breasts of the clouds have dried up. The monsoon-fed Mother Kaveri, who for centuries has nurtured the sky, raised pearls, tiger-striped blood, and city of men, like all mothers and daughters in history, is dying. When the sky is barren, they borrow bowels. When the sky is barren, they borrow borewells to pierce into the hard heart of the earth, find pain, dead dryness, starved cattle, sore skin, parched pulse, songs of sorrow without water. The land now is infested with predatory loan sharks. சுடுகாடு தெரியாம அலையறாண்டா சொத்துக்கு. Why do you have clothes on you still? Why does your wife have a Mangal Sutra? A dirty bottle of river, polythene of cloud, a dead rainbow hanging from a rope. Are we dreaming of a rain that we have killed? But trust me, I was like 15 days straight there, and yeah, I mean, I couldn't stand. So if, I mean, of course, for many in the room, Delhi's April-May heat is something that you will have to experience it being there on the road, and like my thighs were red, and because yeah, maybe I was, and they were there. There was no toilets. It was, yeah. So yeah, capitalism. Lesson. Going back to Dunya. This line is by Nida Fazli. दुनिया जिसे कहते हैं जादू का खिलौना है, मिल जाए तो मिट्टी है, खो जाए तो सोना है. A rough translation into English would be this thing, what we call the world, is like a magic toy. If we find it, it is mud. If we don't find it, it's gold. So life in big cities is carcinogenic, inherently xenophobic. Make it big, make it large, be smart, outlive, outrun. When I left Delhi for Agartala, I knew I would find nothing. Nothing big, nothing important, only a person who loves me. At times, that is all you want. Nobody. Nobody, a gush of wind to rattle your window, a young mango tree to be taken care of, a petty rose shrub to be pruned, afternoon tea to be prepared, curtains to be opened, and wooden table to be painted, a room to be cleaned, books to be shelved, a blanket to be warmed, food to be shared, a poem to be read. At times, that is all life asks for. Yeah. So, yeah. Well, I miss my friend Basar. Okay, I'll do one more Arunachal poem because I love Arunachal, and yeah, and probably I miss my partner at times. So my father-in-law is a Galo singer from the Galo tribe, and this song is about brotherhood. And so tokupata is something that, it's a leaf, it's like a palm leaf that you make the heart out of things, and it's beautiful. So when we think of indigenous spaces like that, you don't have to pay. Like, let's say when you put a tokupata up on your house, it'll last for like 15 years, 10 to 15 years. And to change it, you just have to cook a lot of food and call the villagers around. They will come and do it for you, all of them collectively. So it's like a picnic to change the roof of your house. It's just that. And we'll speak much more in the nationalism, how indigenous resilience is also very much not spoken about. But yeah. So this poem, I also love that, I mean, nobody here would understand this language, and I love when people speak to me in unknown languages. So, Geetam gadha, Sitam gadha, Gombalokan logunatani hima bajuka, Ibalokan logunatani hima bajuka, Kona ko se korle yorgum si ko sogo konako se korle bidum siko sogo nidamumao tao sila kujo nigamuma. Old Galo songs don't play on the radio anymore. I tell Mikom to sing Mogedoji, Marto Kamdag or maybe Nyadu, who the locals say sings better than Lata Mangeshkar. I hear children sing Bollywood. It's cool and all that. Who sings in Galo? Everybody has their own versions of folk tales, yarn and cabin songs at wedding, own ways of speaking Galo, village code words transmitted verbally to children. Who has time for jargons? I walk around in the valley, see two kids playing with Gettys. Gettys is a catapult. I walk around in the valley and see two kids playing with Gettys. Where can I buy one? Pinjum and Kirdum laugh. You can't, you make it on your own. Who wants to shop online? Tokupata roof lasts for a decade, bamboo floor shines longer. All you need is food to be cooked for those helping to build the house. Bamboos are said to have survived the atomic bombing of Hiroshima. Who needs a concrete heaven? Between the wild and the domesticated, free and chained, life strides like a mithun. One can tell if a mithun is healthy from the size of the hump and the front lobe. The healthy one go to the bright side. Who sees the shine in their eyes? Lichum and liquor are antique ornaments, but their values in the plains is unknown. The Galo are laden with them during festivities and weddings, holding sliced branches of the Inji tree for good omen, donning cane hats adorned with bare hair and beaks of hornbills. Who needs blood diamond? And that's about it. What do I end with? Yeah. I will leave for a question. So let me end with a brief poem on love, the idea of love, and we can have converse after that, or if somebody wants to say something, you're welcome. This is one of my favorite go-to poems, and so I'm closing with this. எனக்கு எல்லா பாஷை தெரியாது ஆனா அன்பு புரியும் मुझे सारी भाषाएं तो नहीं आती पर प्यार समझ आता है I don't know all languages but I understand love আমি সব ভাষা জানি না কিন্তু ভালোবাসা বুঝি मला सगळ्या भाषा माहित नाही पण प्रेम माहित आहे मला मुझे सारी भाषाएं तो नहीं आती पर प्रेम समझ आता है Love and poetry can be found in Kabir's dohas Namdev and Tukaram's Abhangs, Tiruvalluvar's Tirukurals, or the Baul Geet of Bengal, or in the Bhatiyali songs of Assam, or in the Bard Room in Mathrubhumi festival. Love sticks out like the tongue of a Kali. Love sticks out like the tongue of a Kali, suckles like a baby on its mother's breast, trickles like raindrops from tendrils, rolls down like beads of sweat while love making, drives at 200 miles per hour without a seat belt and faints at nothing. Love and poetry faint at nothing. Love and poetry are fearless. Thank you.